Okay, it's April. And this is why I have so many layers. That side is uncovered and fine. This side has tomatoes and basil and stuff, so we're gonna leave it covered. Hey guys, I'm just gonna take a little shot quickly to show myself uncovering the frost sensitive plants. You can see over here, I've got plenty of cold season plants that don't care about the frost. This side is my herb side, and it has tomatoes and celery and basil and that kind of thing. Alright, I don't know if you guys know this, but when you harvest rhubarb, you want to harvest it by pulling, not breaking, and this indicates to the plant to grow more. And this is the second time I've harvested from this plant this year.
Mom, you said pulling, not breaking, is that correct?
What, honey?
You said pulling, not breaking, is that correct?
Yeah, pulling, not breaking. The goats are going to be put into the garden today because I need to get some materials harvested out of the garden to turn into my really big hotbed greenhouse. Alright guys, this is the one I'm taking down. It's the dividing fence, and you can see that the goats have put a lot of pressure on it. When the sheep were in here, the fences were fine. There's a huge difference between keeping sheep and keeping goats inside a fence. Goats are aggressive, they'll just push through things, climb on things, whereas sheep, they'll put their head through a little bit, but they don't push on it. Actually, looking at it right now, I have so much Swiss chard left here, and we are feeding it to the pigs, which is really stretching our food budget a lot. I think what I'm going to do instead of taking the fence down is I'm just going to take one of the trellises down, put in the T-post a little better, and move that middle fence closer this way so that they can eat all the weeds there but not kill the Swiss chard, so that we can keep harvesting it for the pigs. I think that's what I'm going to do. This is a cow panel that I cut in half. The reason I cut it in half, sometimes, I don't cut all my cow panels in half, but the reason I do it sometimes is because sometimes I need to be able to do a project by myself without having my kids come help me. So once I cut it in half, I can't use it on the hotbed greenhouse. It won't arch, it will just be a half panel. But for things like gates or like the project I'm doing right now, where I'm going to close off the end of a trellis on both ends so that the goats can move this much further into the garden, it's perfect. My neighbor's out mowing. These are another one of my favorite tools, these double-ended clips. They hold goats in really well, and it means I can still get through this spot. Mama. Gotta move your head. Move your head. Come on. Out you go. You don't want to leave things like this out in your garden if you're going to graze your animals out there afterwards. They'll eat them by accident. You don't want metal in their stomach, sharp metal. So make sure to always stick it in your pocket. Same thing goes for your baling twine. I pick it up when I'm done with the project. Do you want to explain to him about the roots? Come on, guys.
Propped up by pillows as she viewed the clever freedom.
About how the pigs like the roots. All right.
So these are our Swiss chard that we give to our pigs. They really like them, especially since they have these roots.
That might actually be a sugar beet.
They might be, but
Yeah, I think that
their
one's a
roots
sugar
turned out
beet.
really good this year.
Yeah, we put them really close together. I didn't thin them at all, so instead of getting really big roots, we got these small roots. It's okay because it just goes to the pigs.
Yeah.
But even with Swiss chard, you get good roots, and that's the favorite part for the pigs.
Yeah, they eat them really good. This is only for one pig and she eats them all.
Yeah, that's for the mama pig, and these are for the daddy pigs.
Yeah.
Hi, pig pigs. Put it in the basket, honey. I don't want it in my pocket. Hi, Mama. Did you like sugar beets too?
Yes, they definitely do.
All right. So you can see that even in October, we have plenty of food left over from weeds and things in the garden that we're not eating fast enough. It's not that we don't eat the greens. It's just that we don't eat them fast enough for what we planted. Is that a puppy? Okay. So the sheep really like the sugar beet greens too. Hi, Mama. Here's our little pregnant sow. So these pigs get hay every day. And they get greens every day. They get a little bit of grain. But greens and hay are pretty much their diet. And what they do is they build up this really nice, deep composting system in the soil that mulches everything so weeds can't come up. The more hay you can get in there, the better your garden is next year. The pigs do a really good job of that. So the reason we have 2 boars and not 2 sows is because we don't need more than 7 babies a year. So we only need 1 sow. But our boars are very typey. He's more of the Julian look. He's more of the Kune American Guinea Hog look. So he's half American Guinea Hog, half Kune. He is half Kune, half Julian. And the Julian has longer legs. They don't get as fat. They have more bone and muscle rather than fat. He's really big and round. He's more rangy looking. He's more mobile. He will just lay down and not get up till it's time to eat again. So if you want more lard, you want that guy. If you want more meat, don't eat it. Don't eat it. Leave it alone. She's trying to eat my phone. Or no, my cutters. So the reason we don't have the sheep out there in the pasture is because it's been grazed as much as it can be this year. Now it's their job to just keep all the weeds down out here and the weeds up front down until we get 1 sheep butchered, maybe 2 sheep butchered. We'll have to see. So I opened up the side gate for the sheep. So I opened up the side gate for the sheep to come graze the rest of the weeds down that are up here. You can see even like the actual weeds that are in the road. They eat pretty well. Kaya, make sure you got the garage door closed. All right, there we go. I have all the T-posts pulled. I have the chicken wire wound up. I have the cow panels lined up in a row and leaned really good so that the goats can't get their heads through or get hurt by them. I'm gonna pull them out as soon as I can, because when you leave fencing or any kind of building material in with animals, especially goats, they get messed up pretty quickly or the animals hurt themselves on them. So I need to pull this stuff out as soon as I can. But that looks better. The goats are happy. They're grazing on the new weeds. And now I have my materials that I need to go on and get the hotbed greenhouse done. So my favorite tools are T-posts and cow panels, sometimes hog panels depending on the project. And the reason for that is because I can move them from place to place to place to place. When you put in permanent fencing, when you put in concrete, when you put in anything that needs to be like nailed down and you're never going to take it up again, the problem is you can't take it up again. You have to spend new money to put fencing in new places, and it gets very expensive very quickly. Whereas if you have something that's movable, if it turns out that you don't like how you do something the first time, you can move it, you can change it. Go check out my Etsy store if you want to see my plans for the hotbed greenhouse. They're very basic. I also have plans just for the hotbed itself, and I'm hoping to get more finessed plans with more options up once I have the big greenhouse built. So as I build the really big greenhouse, I will be taking more pictures, taking more video to try and make the explanation very clear. There we go. Thanks for popping in. If you're interested in getting my weekly newsletter, go over to my Patreon page, and I pretty much brain dump there. I talk about things that are happening on the homestead that I don't put into the videos. I don't have time to put it into the videos before I lose it out of my brain. So I appreciate everybody who supports me over there. I make about $110 a month right now, and it goes towards things like minerals for the sheep or new hoof trimmers, things like that. But it makes a pretty big difference. So those of you who do that, I really appreciate it. Talk to you later. So the nice thing is you can use old wood and even some bent wood if you use these brackets when you're initially shaping it. And so for those of us who are using secondhand items, or maybe are a little weaker with your tools, you can do a lot. And if you just match your boards up, instead of having to cut them, if you just have boards that are all the same length, that's what we did with this one. Most of these boards were just the same length, so it was easiest to use it. And you can just use secondhand goods. And everything inside here is compost. None of it was purchased. It was old bedding, it was tree limbs, it was old straw, and even the seeds.
It was rotten eggs.
It was rotten eggs, all that kind of thing. And this year we didn't even buy potting soil because we just used really good dirt that had been sitting under the compost bed the whole time. So that's the one that is in the best shape because that's the one that had the best soil. All right, let's start on this side. You guys don't need to hang on them. All you're going to do is hold the boards. Take it, please.
Wow, this thing is heavy. I can manage to get the very top page. Can you bring these up to the top so it's fine?
Are we needing it to the top? Yep.
So it is really nice to have a bone pile, which means you have a pile of wood that was free or you collected from somewhere and it's not perfect, but it's there when you need it. All right, that's a good one. Go ahead and take it in. That one does have oil on it. It could be treated, but it's going to be on the outside of the bed, not the inside, so it doesn't matter. All right, Kaya, come pull this one out. We're gonna put the tin in. This is from a salvaged calf shed from my father-in-law, so we're gonna go ahead and put it in. It goes on the inside, which is why it doesn't matter that some of this might be pressure treated. All right, so this is the last one, and we were pretty luxurious when we used our tin. We weren't careful to save it because more than anything we're trying to get it picked up and packed up so it's not on the ground. Now we're going to fill it with sticks and old manure and some straw and some potting soil. And I don't like how this looks, so we'll probably find another 2x4 and put another 2x4 here, here, just like we did on this side. Another one there, and maybe at the bottom. But that's how it looks. The only thing I don't like about this is I do worry about the tin cutting somebody, but in the, I don't know how many years since we've been doing it this way, we've never had anybody get cut, even with renters here. So, there we go. It is not centered to the house. The grow bed is not in line with the house, but it is in line with the other grow bed. So, let's see how it goes. If you are going to put cow panels on it, make sure that the wood you're using is not too old because you are anchoring the cow panel to the wood and it needs to be strong enough. I will be putting actual good screws in here to make sure that it is really solid, not just the little elbows. I just haven't got to it yet because it's too hot out here to film. All right, so now we need to fill in these spaces. If you're using things like pine boughs, and you take all the branches off, they're very straight and they lay in very nicely. In something like this, you can see we got a ton of space in there. We've got kids working, we've got mom not really paying attention, and now we have a lot of space in there. So we're going to try and fill that space in with branches as best we can and some wood. But then we need to put in something smaller like straw to fill in the spaces even more, and then we're going to put on some manure. Okay, so what we have done now is we have a whole bunch of live branches and things, and I'm going to add some manure on top of that, and the reason for that is I want manure littered throughout this so that it'll heat up, it'll kill the weed seeds, and it'll start to decompose. The manure that I'm using is just from the goat barn, and it is just straw and goat manure, and it's been sitting there for a few years. Some of it will be fresher than other, and we're just going to go ahead and sprinkle it in like seasoning. Okay, so you saw that it weighted it down, and that's exactly what we want. We put in the logs, we put in the manure, and we do that to weight it down so that it will sink so we can fit more in. Okay, so I have nothing against straw bale beds. I've made them before. I had I think 3 of them here and then 1 out in the greenhouse. But if I'm going to make a straw bale bed, I'm not going to make it just out of straw bales. I want it in a frame, because as things start to decompose, it's one thing if it's squash, zucchini, watermelon, maybe even potatoes. But if you have anything that has a fine root system and a short lifespan, when those straw bales start to decompose and they start to decompose outwards, the water evaporates and it just starts to crumble, the roots get exposed. On a big squash, generally that doesn't happen because its roots are really well in there, and it's the roots that are holding the straw bale together. But if I'm going to use straw now, I put it in a frame, and that way as it decomposes, it will decompose inward. And I prefer to do straw bales with wood because then the wood makes the bed last longer. So we now have wood, young living wood, straw, and now manure on top, and we're just going to keep layering that, and then once it's all layered and pretty high, I'm going to water it and get it to sink a little bit. Alright, so this is what they look like right now. This is the rabbit garden that we also harvest out of. And then this one has comfrey and squash in it, and the reason for that is that squash is a heavy feeder and it wasn't fully composted. It was kind of half composted what we put in there. What we put in here was fully composted, and it was already full of the last 3 years worth of limbs and things like that. So all we were doing was putting in a planting medium on the top. So it's doing really well. We didn't even add any fresh rabbit manure. The far one has been in for a week and it's still sinking. So we're going to add another layer of straw, we're going to water it down, and then we're going to see if we can put some, maybe, I don't know what we're going to put in it, we'll see. But this one's doing well. It keeps having squash that were, what's the word? They're coming up on their own. They were in the compost that wasn't fully composted, so they keep sprouting, but we keep freezing, so they keep dying. So we have more summer squash coming up. They're trying. We've replanted some. We're going to put some from the nursery in, and we're going to keep a closer eye on that frost warning. And then today I would like to see if we can get the cow panel up on it. But that far one, it's full of wood, it's full of paper garbage, it's full of straw, it's full of manure. And now we need to add some more and get it watered and see if we can get it to sink again. Alright, hopefully you guys saw that. This is what I'm trying to do, and I want it to be self-supporting. The reason I care about it is that I want there to be a greenhouse out there you can use that won't blow away in the wind and will heat up in the winter. Hey guys, so I'm going to show you how to mix up some planting medium. Usually I use peat moss, but they had coconut coir at the place I went, and it takes up less space because all you have to do is rehydrate it. So use perlite, some kind of soft carbony thing like peat moss or coconut coir, sand, and you can use compost if you want to. So I'm going to go ahead and let this rehydrate. And what I do is I just move the mulch away in the hotbeds and put the planting medium in and then plant into that. And that way the nitrogen has some time to cool down and decompose before the roots of that plant get to it. So that's your sand. Alright, so at this point I've done some pulling, some thinning, and also I've chopped and dropped my comfrey that's in here to give everything more sunshine. At this point, sunshine is what we need. I also need to cut back my living fence a little bit because it's going to start to shade out the tomatoes. These are volunteer tomatoes that are in here from some that didn't get fully composted in the compost pile. This particular compost pile was half composted. That one over there was fully composted, so that's the difference. We didn't have any volunteers in the other one, just in this one. And then this is the new bed. I do have the potting soil put in now, and I have the hose over the top of it. Most likely what I'll plant here is Swiss chard because it just does really well for us, and it's mature very quickly. I might do some carrots as well. We'll see. But I can't put the plastic on until we're probably well into September, if not October, because we don't get frost until about October, at which point I need to build a frame there that allows a 2x4 to run over the top to support this. I'll build in a door frame here, and then we'll put plastic on. But even though we get really cold winters, I will have a half door at the bottom there in between the two, so that I can open it and let fresh air in from the bottom, because we have really bright, good sunshine here in the winter, and you can still have plants that are getting overheated over 90 degrees, even if we're 18 below Fahrenheit outside. So there we are. There's the semi-finished product, the summer product, and we will show you the fall and winter product when our weather will allow us. So thanks for watching. Alright, so here's our tot soy. There's cola plant. Makes your homemade pop taste like Pepsi. There's some walking onions. Those I didn't plant this year. Those came back from last year. I have some carrots in here. Lettuce. Onions. This was a tomato I planted in here, and you see it did not do well. The bed itself was not hot enough. See? There at the root, it's a little bit alive still, but not much. Same thing for this one. It's a little bit alive at the root, but not much. So, gonna pull those out. I'm not gonna put anything warm loving in this bed. It's full of compost. It's not full of heat, producing carbon and manure. As you can see, there is my rhubarb. Again, second time we've harvested it. I'm trying to have it not go too hog wild in here so we have room to move. I have some mustard plants back there. And you can see there's a difference between those that were planted and don't have enough room. They're too close together to really fill out. And one that has lots of space. That's how a tatsoi is supposed to look. But it doesn't matter. We harvest, we eat it. There's a little more room, they grow a little bigger. All right, on this side, I have a lettuce that needs to be pulled. I have dill. We have some sorrel. Lots. Huh? Bad sorrel. I have basil here. I have beets. More cutting celery. Onions. I think this one is parsley. And I have a borage here that's too big for its britches. I have tomatoes back there. Last night this didn't get covered and it kind of damaged the tomatoes a little bit. So that's a shame. But here's the potatoes. And I can be harvesting from this all the time. The more I harvest from it, the more room everything else has. The first thing I'm going to harvest is that borage and get it out of here. Go plant it somewhere that that I'm not trying to create people food. However, oh, this is something I need to talk about. With greenhouses, sometimes it's hard to get pollinators in here. If you can plant some flowers that the bees will come in for, that's great for your whole garden. However, in our neck of the woods, bees can't really survive until you get into May. So there's not much for this one to be attracting right now. Here's more basil. See that there? This is a kohlrabi. And yeah, it looks like I really just need to come out and harvest some celery. Do you want to grab me, where are they? The little tiny cutters, the ones with the orange cap, and grab me a bowl to put all the celery in.